I consider myself white. 3, 2, 1.
So for me, it's more like I'm not white. I'm human, just like everyone. So I don't consider myself as white in general. I consider myself as white in general, but not in like that kind of way because we all human in the end. And yeah, I know. That's what I wanted to say.
I guess it's kind of like a label that I'm white, but I do consider myself as white. But I do agree it's definitely kind of like a label on how you see it. But yeah, by definition, I do consider myself white.
Yeah, so my dad is like Hawaiian and my mom is like white. So I'm like kind of half islander, half white. So that's why I'm in the middle because like, I don't know, I'm like kind of mixed a little bit. But yeah, that's why I'm not, yeah.
White privilege is not real. 3, 2, 1.
I think it's definitely a real thing, and that we're not faced with oppression or discrimination. I think a lot of people's perceptions come from their experiences, and based on my experiences and the things that I've seen, I've definitely seen discrimination and oppression against other races, but not so much with white Caucasians.
So I'm standing here is like I have a lot of different friends of different communities or different countries or whatever, and I heard a lot of really bad stories about how they got treated in different ways, and it never happened to me. I was never like treated wrong as a white person. That's why I completely disagree on that one, because it never happened to us. It never happens to us, but more like to other people like from other races, and I think that's not really fair. So yeah.
I absolutely agree that white privilege is a thing and that it exists. I think there's more to it. I don't disagree with the fact that other ethnicities or people of colour aren't treated differently because of the way that we look. I think that it's a very prevalent thing and that there's not a whole lot more that I can say. I don't really know how to put it into words. Like, it exists, and definitely been treated different to other people. I mean, not so much that I've been advantaged significantly, but it definitely exists.
I am more Australian than Aboriginal. 3, 2, 1.
I absolutely disagree. I think Aboriginal people, they were the first ones, they're from Australia. So I almost feel like I'm Australian because I'm in Australia, I live in Australia, but Aboriginal people, they are true Australians in my mind. And we all are as well, but yeah, they're definitely top Australians.
So I agree that technically, like, every Australian kind of like, Australia is here kind of because of our Aboriginal people, and I believe in all of that. But at the same time, Aboriginal people have their own culture and everything that I've not been brought up with. I'm not like educated on through school or anything, and therefore I do not resonate with any of like their beliefs necessarily. And I think to call yourself Aboriginal would mean like to identify with the culture, and I don't identify with the culture, therefore I'm not Aboriginal, I'm Australian.
Well, I'm from Germany, so I don't consider myself as an Aussie or an Aboriginal. I consider myself as a German boy.
I believe white people can experience racism. 3, 2, 1.
So I think anyone, any race is capable of experiencing racism. I think it's just a fact. I think we all have free will, and we're all able to choose how we want to act towards another person. I think it's possible.
I can't speak from personal experience, but I do think that racism can affect any race, any colour. I don't think it's specific to any colour or any race. I think it can affect anyone, so everyone can experience it.
The reason I'm not like fully for agree is because obviously anyone can experience racism, but it shouldn't be ignored that white people obviously experience it significantly less and probably like to a much lesser degree when they do experience it. So even though anyone can experience it, like I feel like it shouldn't be viewed the same way, and it shouldn't be used as a rebuttal to like go against like kind of the racism that black people might face or any other race.
I definitely think that there's like a huge like, especially in America, there's like a big, I feel like race war because like they're never agreeing on the same thing. And so like I definitely think that it's possible for like any races to be racist to each other. So yeah, no, definitely. That's why I'm in the middle and not strongly agree.
Australia Day should not be changed. 3, 2, 1.
So even if I'm not from Australia, I know the background behind Australia Day, and I think it's just a day, like just change the day from the, what is it, I think the 28th or something, just for a day later, because that's the day like when Australia got conquered, I think, when I think about right. So I don't think there is a problem to change the date because it's not been for that long Australia Day. I don't know exactly how long it's been there for, but the history goes way back than that. So I highly disagree on that one, that it should be changed actually.
So for me, I strongly believe that it's a day of mourning for the Indigenous community, and I think that there really aren't any issues in everyone else changing it. Like, what is the problem with changing it, and how does that outweigh, you know, the pain and the grief that they experience through us celebrating on that day? And I just think if you have any compassion or empathy, then you should definitely empathise with that and just agree. I think we're just being very stubborn.
My views on Australia Day, I think that if Aboriginal people want to change the date, then that's okay. That's why I'm not on the full agree line. I think the reason that we celebrate Australia Day should be changed behind it. Like for me, Australia Day is celebrating what Australia is today and like the beautiful country it is, the peace that it is, you know, what happened all those years ago with Aboriginal people, it's never going to happen again. And I just think, yes, it is the day of invasion, but I think the meaning of it behind it should be recognised as we're celebrating that will never happen again. So that's how I see it.
So I definitely understand exactly where you're coming from. Although I do feel like Aboriginal people don't really have a say in like anything to do with Australia. Like realistically, I've never heard anybody be like, oh yeah, Aboriginal people passed this law or did this, like, because they don't care. I feel like Australia doesn't care. So I feel like personally, we don't need Australia Day because like I just think it's useless and it really doesn't bring out any good. It's just kind of an excuse for people to not work. So that's my opinions. I'm so sorry.
No, like I totally get that, but I do know that that is getting better, especially in like rural areas. Aboriginal people are getting their land back. There's still so far to go, but it is getting better, which is good to see. In terms of the public holiday, I think a lot of people will be mad if we get rid of that. But like I said, I just think the meaning behind it should be celebrated differently.
So just following on from what you said before, and that it's never going to happen again in terms of the invasion, I think if you were to attend a funeral and you go through the grief process and you're kind of just like, okay, well, this is never going to happen again, you still have that trauma and you still have that grief, and it doesn't go away. And it's a way of moving forward and coping with that grief. And I think it's really difficult when you're constantly reminded of that.
There are certain races responsible for gang and criminal activity more than other races. 3, 2, 1.
So if I got the question right, you asked us that, for example, people with color are more criminal or white people are more criminal than black people, yeah? So I think, I don't know how you come up with something like that. It's so because I'm from Europe, I'm from Germany, and we also see that in Germany that a lot of people say like the people from Syria or from Turkey or wherever are the bad people in our country. But on the other side, so many other Germans do the same shit. They do the same shit, but they don't get the same consequences for it. So that's why I disagree on that. It's not on race or on whatever. It's more just on the human being itself, or whatever, on your background of your family, of your friends, that you're in the wrong space with the wrong friends. You take drugs, you take whatever. So I think it all comes from that, and not because you were born with another race or whatever. Yeah.
I'm kind of wishing I had moved more to disagree, but I think it's too late to move now. But pretend, okay. Yeah, so I think a lot of it, like that belief just comes from kind of like stereotypes. And I think a lot of that's done through the media. Like, obviously there's like kind of like stereotypes that exist. And that's why this question got asked about, like, for example, like just black people committing crimes more and being in gangs more and stuff like that. But I think a lot of that is to do with the media. Like, if a white person was like to commit a crime and like be in a gang and stuff, I think like if it would be just like reported less like in the news and on social media, and it would be portrayed in less of a harsh light. Whereas if there was like you'd see on the media like a gang of like Sudanese like boys like terrorise the community, like they're up to trouble, like they're you know, like it'd be very, very like opinionated and kind of nasty. But if a group of like white Eshays were to do the same thing, they'd be like, oh, some local Australians are just in a bit of trouble. Like, it's very biased, and I think that the media fuels this stereotype that isn't actually true. And I think news coverage also reflects that. So that's my opinion.
I was in agreement with you, Sarah. Like, the media does have a big part in this. I'm staying neutral because I don't think it has anything to do with your race. I think it's more to do with your upbringing and sort of what you're exposed to as a child. But really, it's the media makes us think one way. And I know it's like it can be sort of labelled a certain race may do more crime and all that, but it's just the media feeding us information. It's not based on all the facts.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think that the media does like kind of obscure the image of certain races, and that's very prevalent. But also, I have to say that like definitely it's like no like certain race does more than another race. Like, that's so weird. You know, like in Australia we got a lot of Eshays. You know, in like UK, it's like Roman. It's like anybody can be anything, realistically. It's just how you grow up. So I'm going to have to agree with you on that.
I'm not sure. I feel like I should be more on the disagree side as well. I think it does have everything to do with the way someone is brought up and the different elements that they're exposed to growing up. I strongly believe in, everyone's a good person from the beginning. It's how they interact with their environment. And I don't think it's right to say that it's got anything to do with race necessarily. Sure, maybe there are a higher percentage of certain races that do commit certain crimes, but I think that has to do with the situation that they've been put in. I think anyone of any race, if they were put in that situation, if they grew up like that, I think they'd have a similar effect. I think it doesn't necessarily boil down to race.
Just one more thing is like a funny question, because just imagine a 5-year-old, colored, you think he's gonna be like, hey, let's rob that store, and the white one be like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna do that. So just imagine that, like, it has everything to do how you grow up. Like, no one will be, when you're a young kid, or even like a teenager, whatever, when you grew up, normally no one would be like, hey, let's kill this guy, or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's literally just all your friends you're hanging out with, the wrong people you're hanging out with, and it has literally nothing to do with your race. Because I have so many Muslim friends, for example, and they all say, like, what happened, for example, 2001, it was so shit, obviously, and still people talking about and say, for example, Muslims are the worst or whatever, and in that way, I just think, like, no one was born with, like, something like that. It's all up to the parents or to to the friends you have, yeah, in general.
This is kind of controversial. Okay, listen, I'm gonna try to word this slowly. Okay, so like I'm gonna go on your point, right? So, like in America, yeah, if we're talking about white privilege, yeah, you know, a lot of white people in America are obviously privileged more than African American people in America. So if most white people in America, or just in general, are more privileged than other colors, then you're kind of like forced into growing up into like a really low income, like low status, low everything sort of situation. So when you grow up, it's kind of like what evolves of you, because it's like for white privilege, they grow up, they're chilling. They don't need to worry about anything. But like for African Americans in America, or Africans in other countries too that are multicultural, it's like they kind of have to grow up in like a more less fortunate time, you know, because like, again, like I was talking about like white privilege and that. So yes, it's definitely like how you grow up, and it's like unfortunate that statistics are like that. I just think it has a little bit to do with white privilege and, again, like growing up. So yeah.
I prefer to date within my own race. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, because I travel around the world a lot, I met so many people already. Doesn't matter, Asians or whatever, white people, black people, whatever, and I love everyone. Is that good? Yeah, I think so. So I'm just like, how would you be able to judge on someone because he looks different? I know, like dating, it's. Obviously, you have maybe personal preferences. That's completely normal. Like maybe you like tall guys or you like small guys, whatever. That's like personal preferences, and it's nothing bad about it, I think. But for me, it's more like I dated an Asian girl already, and so like I don't really care. Yeah.
I don't really care either, but I'm sort of just basing my position here off history for myself. Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on it. It's just history for myself. I guess it's like, maybe I'm standing here because I lean more towards, maybe I'm attracted to someone of my own race more, but I'm just here from what history says for me.
Yeah, I think similar like to that, like everyone obviously has like a type that you're more like drawn towards, and that can literally just be like the most like superficial, like stupid things, or like if someone gives you like the ick, like we all know that that's stupid shit. But yeah, it's just kind of that stuff. But at the end of the day, like I think everyone can agree, like personality is like bigger than like anything pretty much. And obviously you vibe with who you vibe, like doesn't matter about race or like where you're from or even like what language you speak and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, like that's that. But like, yeah, similar. It's just like most people have like a type, and it's just like you might have like similar people you've gone for in the past. Like I like my Italian boys. So, but anyway, that's me. Yeah.
I think for me as well, yeah, you know, history based and based on my experiences, and therefore become my perceptions and beliefs. So yeah, I think for me it doesn't really matter. It's more about the connection that you have with someone, I think, is more important, because you're going to have to put up with them through a lot of interesting situations.
If history has shown me anything, I mean, yeah, typically I do date preferably white females, but it's not to say I'm not open to dating anyone else. I mean, I'm sure anyone's been on Tinder, Hinge, any of those dating sites. It's not like I'm actively avoiding anyone that's not white. I'm matching with Asian people, darker skinned people. I don't have a preference, it's just...
I don't disagree with you guys. I mean, have preference, man, have preference. Personally, I think it's dumb not to have preference. I mean, like to date just in your race. For me, it's like, hey, if you got 5 style and you got 5 music tastes, I'm all for it. Let's go, bro. But otherwise, yeah. Oh, shit. My bad. Oh.
I enjoy being white. 3, 2, 1.
I think that's like a really weird question. Like, I enjoy being a human. Like, I enjoy being a 21-year-old girl. That's got nothing to do with race. I don't think race would like change much about like how you enjoy your life and stuff like that. Obviously, like it would suck to experience racism and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you're still a person. Like, I just think that's straight. I didn't really know exactly where to stand for that, because it's like yeah, I like my life, but I'd like it too if I was any other race. Like, I would think so. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, so I took that interpretation of, I disagree. I don't not enjoy being white, but I don't agree with that I enjoy being white. I enjoy being who I am as a person. I'm sure, you know, through different circumstances, you know, if I grew up differently or I had, you know, more money, like I grew up very poor. So if I had more money when I grew up, would I have a different life? Probably yes. If I was a different race, I'd probably have a different life, but I don't think it has anything to do with whether I enjoy my current life.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a weird question to agree or disagree. I'm standing here because I like being me. I'm white, so I'm going to stand here because I like being me. But I'm sure, like Sarah said, if I was anyone else, yeah, I'm just here because I like being me. So it doesn't matter what race.
So I'm just standing here because, what means I don't enjoy being, like, it's such a weird thing to say that I enjoy being white. I would say I would be a fiery black man. I would be fire, like, for real. So I don't really care. Like, I know what you mean with the question because of the privileges and everything. And so on that side, I'm not enjoying being white. I don't know. Like, I can't do anything against it that I'm white. I like me, I like myself. Doesn't matter if I'm white, Asian, black, or small, tall, whatever. I just like myself.
Everyone's obviously saying like the I like myself part, and like that makes like sense, and I literally was the one who started saying that. But at the same time, like obviously if you're anyone experiencing privilege, whether it's because you're pretty, whether you're because of a certain race, like obviously it's nice to experience privilege. Like it doesn't mean it's fair, like it's not fair at all for the people that aren't getting that privilege, but obviously like it's like nice. But then at the same time, there's kind of like things that can be looked at as like negatives as well. Like I'm Australian and Italian, and like I'm obviously very white. I consider myself very white, and part of that kind of like sucks is that I feel like I don't have much culture. I'm very just like, I have no culture, like I'm so white. Like it's like a bit boring. Like I feel like I'm lacking some spice, and I feel like that can be seen almost as a negative. Like it's a bit stupid, but like I just think there's kind of like little pros and cons to each thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, everyone's human. Like you are what you are, like, and most people can just like enjoy themselves. So yeah.
And that's it. Thank you all for coming, and we love all your opinions, and hug it out. Hug it out.